Clearing the Spiral Abyss is the main endgame content in Genshin. Clearing it gives you bragging rights, but more importantly, Primogems for you to roll for your next character. However, every time the Spiral Abyss resets, there are likely to be new enemies, which means that you'll need to create a new team to tackle those enemies. But how do you do so? You can of course go online to search for team builds or recommendations, but what if you don't have those characters? How do these creators even come up with teams in the first place? For example, if I recommend you to use a Hyper Bloom team, but you do not have Xingqiu, how can you adapt your team accordingly? This is why instead of telling you what characters to use, I'll be teaching you how you can come up with your own teams so that you can 36-star the Abyss every time on your own terms using the characters that you already have. Before I continue, can I just say a huge thank you to all my fellow coins for helping us to reach 2,800 subscribers. I really am so appreciative of everyone here. If you haven't subscribed, do consider subscribing as I post regular Genshin Impact videos, and you can also help us to get to our goal of 10,000 subscribers. Thank you so much in advance. Without further ado, my name is ChargeCoin and let's begin the video. The first most important thing you need to look at is the enemies in the various floors. From there, you can decide on the type of characters that you require to defeat them. So, what enemies are there? The main few are as follows. Firstly, there are small mobs. These are enemies that are light enough to be able to be knocked back or picked up. These include enemies such as the Hilichurls, fungi, and Sissin mages. For these enemies, you may want to bring characters who can employ crowd control. These include characters such as Sucrose, Venti, or Kazuha, to either group them together or render them unable to move so that they can't attack you, which allows your characters to deal damage and defeat them quickly. Secondly, there are shielded enemies. Shielded enemies are one of the most annoying in the game, as they not only have strong attacks, you also need the right element to take down their shield fast before you can deal damage to them. These include enemies such as the Abyss Mages and Lectors. To take down the various shields quickly, you need to bring characters with the right elements for each shield. For example, bringing Hydro for Pyro shields, bringing Pyro for Cryo shields, bringing Dendro or Cryo for Hydro shields, and finally, Dendro, Cryo or Pyro for Electro shields. Third, you have to look at the enemy's resistances and immunities. Certain enemies have resistances to certain elements. For example, the Thundering Manifestation resists Electro, so don't bring Electro characters for this. Please don't be like the guy from the Apple ad. Finally, you have to look at any other quirks that the enemies or the particular floor might have. For example, if there are Serpent Knights who gain a shield when they hit your shielded character, don't bring a shielder. Or, for an enemy like the Aeon Blight Drake, you definitely want to bring a bow user to shoot it down when it flies. Or, if the floor has a monolith that you need to protect, you may want to bring a freeze team, animal teams for crowd control, or geo teams to literally block the monolith from being damaged. If you like the video so far, do consider giving this video a like so that the YouTube algorithm will notice this small channel. Thank you so much. Now that we have talked about the enemies, we can move on to talk about your team and the types of synergies that it requires. Firstly, is elemental reactions. Genshin Impact's core gameplay revolves around the elemental reaction system, which allows you to deal a lot more damage compared to just base single element damage. Let's not talk about Linny, okay? To capitalize on the elemental reaction, you always want to create reactions that can either deal a lot of damage or benefit the team. For example, if I have Ayaka and Raiden in a team, they would produce the superconduct reaction, which unfortunately benefits neither of them since neither use physical attacks. However, having this with Eula will greatly increase the physical damage. I've also created a tier list based on my experience on which are the best elemental reactions to use. Feel free to pause the video and note it down if you require. If you would like me to explain why I rank them as such, you can feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll be happy to do so. Next, we have sustainability. While dealing damage is important, It is useless if your characters get defeated. As such, it is always recommended to either have a healer or a shielder, unless you are that good at dodging. That said, if you are going in for quick Primogems and not a long, horrible time of multiple retries, just consider sustainability for your teams. Third, let's talk about the elemental resonances. Currently, there are a total of 8 elemental resonances in the game. While you do not have to focus on building your team around the resonances, it is important to note that if you require that extra damage, utilizing some resonances can help. For example, Yelan, who scales off HP, will benefit greatly from the Hydro Resonance, which increases her max HP, thereby allowing her to deal even more damage. Finally, we have to talk about your character's kits. In another video, we covered about the roles of every character. Let me first reiterate what these roles are again. There are 3 main types of combat related roles in Genshin. There's DPS, sub-DPS, and support. DPS refers to your team's main damage dealers. They usually have to be on field in order to deal the damage. For example, Hu Tao's kit can only function on field. Sub-DPS refers to characters who usually use their elemental skills or burst, then swap out. The item that they leave behind, be it for example Albedo's flower or Fischl's ores, will deal damage. Finally, for supports, which is the largest category, we have healers such as Jean, shielders such as Zhongli, damage boosters such as Bennett, enemy debuffers such as Venti with the Very Distant Venereal artifact, reaction catalysts such as Kokomi and her jellyfish to apply Hydro, and finally drivers who stay on the field and can usually apply their own element easily to trigger reactions. These include catalyst users such as Nahida and characters with infusions such as El Hatem. Now that we have covered the various roles that are available, you need to be aware of which role your character fulfills so that you can fit them well into a team. For example, Xingqiu will work well with Hu Tao since Hu Tao uses normal attacks and can activate Xingqiu's burst easily for Vaporize. However, Xingqiu will not work well with a character like Lenny since Lenny doesn't use normal attacks, which means that he will rarely be able to activate Xingqiu's burst. A character like Kokomi may be better if you will want reactions. That said, Lenny's kit functions best mono pyro, so this is just an example to illustrate. To help you better understand the role for all of the characters in Genshin, I've created a simplified tier list for all the roles every character in Genshin can fill, so feel free to pause the video to see who will synergize the best in the team that you're going to create. Please forgive me if there are any mistakes. If there are any mistakes, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. Fourth, if you are still having trouble after the previous tips, you can always look at the Abyssal Moon for that Spiral Abyss. These buffs can usually be quite beneficial to help you to deal that extra damage. Additionally, if you haven't noticed, the Abyssal Moon usually benefits the current character in the gacha, to boost more sales. So you can always try creating a team around those characters if you have them. The final point is that you don't have to 9-star every Abyss floor in one shot. Sometimes, the enemies just don't match the teams or characters that you have. It's fine to simply get 3 stars for the third chamber first, then change your team to tackle the first 2. For example, I used the Hu Tao team for the final chamber, but swapped to a Lini team to clear the first chamber a lot faster. So now that we have covered all the various factors, let's put it into action what we have learned for the current Abyss. Let's first take a look at the enemies. In the first half, there's the Magu Kenki, which doesn't really require much planning. A shield or healer may be good since its attacks can actually stun you quite a lot. For the second half, there's the Hydro Eidolons, so a Pyro, Cryo, or Electro character may be useful. For the second chamber first half, you will need a Hydro character to take down the Crab's Pyro shield. For the second half, generally Pyro and Geo will work well against the Breaches and their Dendro and Geo shields. Finally, for the third chamber first half, you will also need a Hydro character to take down the Pyro Fatui shield. For the second half, you'll need a Pyro character to take down the Icewind Suite's Cryo shield. So for our characters, a Hyper Bloom team will be useful since it deals damage and has a Hydro character like Xingqiu to help to take down the Pyro shields. For the second half, a Pyro team with Lini will work well to take down the Hydro Eidolons and Icewind Suite's Cryo Shield. And with that, we've come to the end of today's video. If you have any other additional tips that you'd like to share, you can always feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you found today's video helpful, or you just enjoyed it in general, do consider leaving a like, comment and subscribing if you haven't, as it will really help out this small channel. If you would like to see more on how you can create your own perfect teams, please click the video on the right. If you would like to see my other Genshin Impact videos, please click the playlist on the left. Once again, thank you so much for watching and see you next time. Bye bye!